Alice says that after that point she's going to have to figure out how they can lead to the actual Wonderland. At this point I'm simply going to call it more magical Mary Sue guessing powers, as well as the author simply commanding that things end well. Over and over, Alice has proven that she's too dumb to tie her own shoes. There's no way in hell that she'd be able to puzzle together the clues Catherine left behind for her. Hello and welcome to Quotation Points Video Snark. If you came here because you thought that this was an audiobook, please stick around and maybe learn some reading and listening comprehension skills. I read books, discuss what went wrong and how they can possibly be fixed. I'm continuing my read-through of The Looking Glass Illusion by Sara Ella. Not the first video, go check out the others, links are posted below. Chapter 17. When Chess wakes up, Manny tries to give him some tea. However, he's convinced that together with Snark, Manny would start pranking people. Which is such a weird thing to think when you're in the middle of a challenge, but whatever. It's not a prank, only focusing tea. Manny goes on to say that Knightley, aka Aaron, can only move in the immediate area around the keep. Chess wonders if this is another checkpoint, but Manny is more interested in overseeing Chess getting washed up and dressed than discussing how they're going to get away from this place where they're trapped. After dressing, Chess goes outside where he finds a stable. In the first stall is Aaron's horse. In the second is a crazy chess room set up with diagrams of every possible move in chess. In the third are a bunch of chessboards, each one red and white. I think that this is the first acknowledgement in a book and a half that the author knows that red roses is a code for something else, but I'm still not quite convinced that she actually gets it. Watching Aaron and Sophia play sends Chess down memory lane. Have his father physically hurtling chess pieces and boards at him for a bad game, that the second Chess is offered a way out from the solution, he doesn't hesitate to get himself and Kid out from there. This is interrupted when Aaron beats Sophia at the game. Aaron goes on to say that completing the setup games wins her prizes, but not her freedom. That others have come, taken their supplies, and left. Chess finds that it's little wonder that she's so obsessed with chess. He would be too if he'd been trapped in here for a decade with literally nothing else to occupy his time. But he also thinks that being obsessed with things is what got his mother and Lavender Hatter killed, that they were trying to get away from Mr. Shar when they got into the car accident that killed them. Chapter 18. Alice and Eve race around the halls of the Wabi. This goes on for an entire page before Alice finally asks her cousin what his mastery is. He opens up a hatch and they emerge on top of the ocean. However, he tells her that all of this is yet another illusion. Finally, he tells her that his mastery is agility. But he hates it when people boil him down to a singular thing about himself. He's so much more than being a little bendier than usual. She asks him to tell her more about these looking glasses that only she can enter. He says that he doesn't know that much since he only got there a day before she did, but while nobody else can enter, they can find out their location, that there are 8 of them in total. Since the start of the book, Alice has already entered 5. The narration pauses to go over each of these, as if we started reading the book starting from chapter 18. I would ask where the editor is, but I think that we all know that there is none. Alice says that after that point she's going to have to figure out how they can lead to the actual Wonderland. At this point I'm simply going to call it more magical Mary Sue guessing powers, as well as the author simply commanding that things end well. Over and over, Alice has proven that she's too dumb to tie her own shoes. There's no way in hell that she'd be able to puzzle together the clues Catherine left behind for her. Dave also says that things are going to get harder from here on out, which... Excuse me? Alice has been running around having these visions for like 2 days. The most dangerous thing has been that she thought that a monster showed up, but she screwed up her eyes and ran, it's not real, and it disappeared. The most actual danger she's been in was when she was hungry and thirsty. Though we ran brief introductions when we first sat down, I've already forgotten most everyone's name. There are a few wonder adults the professor recruited to join the Knight Society's mission, an elderly gentleman with a white ponytail, a middle-aged woman with a frizzy hairline and keen eyebrows. I literally told you that these people aren't important, but I'm going to bring the narration to a screeching halt so that I can describe them anyway. Later, Rebecca sits everybody down and basically tells the readers that all of the named children will be leaving the Wabe in order to return to the trial. They'll end up somewhere near the 6th square, but that's the problem. Which makes me think that it's the actual entry point to Wonderland if not one single person has come back from there yet. Raving Hatter wants to go with them, seeing as how he's also a named character, but the problem is that he isn't a child. The plot conveniently demands that the bridge can only hold 4 people, which is the exact number of children who need to leave. Ugh. Anyway, Rebecca asks that Alice has the game almanac and the audio journals before giving her some of the Beast's blend tea. Before she goes, Alice doubles back to ask about the handwritten inscription at the front of the almanac, which is addressed to Charlie from a mysterious R.S.H. She asks if that's him, and he complains that his terrible mother named him Raving Stark and his brother Stark Raving. Notably absent is him answering what should have been a simple question. Alice asks him what he remembers the first trial being. He admits that he doesn't remember any trials from before 25 years ago, which is the same time that Scarlet was put on the throne. He also confirms that there are 8 squares one must pass through in order to go to the real Wonderland, which lines up with the 8 clues Catherine left for Alice. He also reminds her that time passes differently in Wonderland, in these little pockets like the Wabe as well as the fake Wonderland, which might explain why it is that he's so much older than he probably should be. Raven goes on to say that he doesn't have a lot of the actual Wonderland, but he knows that he was there. Alice asks him where he found the almanac, to which he said, "It found me." He goes on to say that he was making a last-ditch effort to save Charlotte, looking for answers in Tology Wood when he came upon the book. It's at this point that Alice realizes that Raven is around the age that Charlotte is supposed to be, which basically sets them as a romantic couple as a result. The bridge isn't actually a bridge, it's more like the concept of a bridge. The 4 children basically link arms and run across it as fast as they can. When Alice looks back, she sees that it's collapsing behind them, which is confusing to me because literally the only reason why Raven couldn't have come with them is simply because the author demanded it. As soon as they reach the other side, Alice is sucked into another vision. In it, Charlotte tells Catherine how foolish that she's being in trying to undergo the trials in a last-ditch effort to save Wonderland, a place that Charlotte tells her sister is crumbling around them. Charlotte wants to take the children and flee to safety. Charlotte reminds Catherine that she has Alice to think about, that they've already lost Ivan Pillar. And I think that this is the first time the book has mentioned Alice's dad, because Alice is as surprised to learn that his name is Ivan as I am. That Catherine says that this is so much more than a single child. This is about every single Wonderlander losing the home, that this is for Alice. When the memory fades, Alice finds herself in a land of oversized flowers. Chapter 19. Chess sulks inside the keep, which is where Snark finds him. Snark says that he had way too much time to think the year he was on the train. The entire time he would come in and out of himself, all the while he was listening to his sister's podcast. He knew that so long as he could still get her signal, that everything was going to be okay. He then proceeds to dump the stupidest metaphor in chess about how if this wheat can grow inside the keep, then so too can hope flourish. I'm not quite sure what anybody was intending here, either from the author's perspective in writing it or Stark's reasoning for wanting to say it. I'm not quite sure that it did anything other than to waste 2 pages of this book. Chess says that it's all his mom's fault that Lavender Hatter is dead, but Stark says that he remembers that day a bit differently than Chess. At this point, Chess suddenly remembers that Stark was there, that the 2 of them had been playing in the woods and were listening as Chess's mom and dad had another row, that Mrs. Shire stormed out and Lavender chased after her. The 2 of them return to the game stables, where they find that Jack has finished his solo game of chess and has won himself a horse. It's at this point that Chess realizes that this trial is about teamwork, that Stark couldn't get himself off of the train. He needed somebody to help him off, that Erin can't leave because it can't, she needs a team to help her. Chess asks Jack what move he played that won the game, which is told to him. Chess in turn asks Erin if that's the same move she used that won her the horse, which Erin also agrees. At this point, Chess realizes that the keep isn't simply any old keep, but rather the rook piece for a chess set, which exactly what does the author think that rook pieces are supposed to be? They're literally freaking castle keeps. Ugh. What's more than that, but Chess thinks that the horses that they've won and they themselves are also key to getting out of here. He tells the others to go into the different rooms to face out the games, and then tells them that if this goes well, they can leave by morning. Chess wins one of the solo games. The board disappears leaving behind the king, but it's so physically hot that he can't touch it. It then explodes. When he comes to, Jack is standing over him, apologizing for not having warned him about that part, but there's a new horse standing over him. They then hear the Jabber walk outside. Chess urges them to all get on their horses and ride away from the area, but I'd like to remind you that the only person who it was that was shown having earned a horse was Jack, not Maddie, Sophia, or Stark. That makes 0 sense, but whatever. Everybody hops into the horses, where they're literally chased to the next square by a thing that flies overhead. It's not exactly described in great detail, and not once does anybody stop to actually look at it, but when they cross over, they realize that it's no longer there. Erin is obviously happy that she's finally free from that area. They continue on until they reach the beach. I'm curious if they've stumbled upon the Wabe, but who knows. The waves part, and Sophia cheerfully announces that it's a garden. Chapter 20. They go into the ocean garden, which isn't the Wabe as I had predicted. However, as soon as they get in there, they're a little on edge. Things are quiet, a little too quiet. Eventually, they hear some rustling noises. As Chess slides off from his horse, he thinks that maybe it's some small animal that they startled, but then he looks back and realizes that a very large snake fan has grabbed Sophia, and, well, I'm sure that we've all seen enough hentai. I'm joking. You would think that the author would seriously go there. Anyway, it grabs everybody else quickly, leaving only Chess. He panics mainly about the Wonder Vision lies for Sophia, Maddie, and Jack, which I'd like to point out that the narration highlighted the fact that he, Stark, and Erin aren't wearing their Wonder Visions, but never once stops to consider what that might mean for the 3 who are. When the horses run off, rather than trying to think of literally anything to do, Chess instead falls to his knees and cries for help. pathetic. But then, because this book is completely and utterly terrible, the author sends in first a literal unicorn and then, literally a lion. First, that is Aslan from Narnia. Then it turns into British monarchy emblems. I'm not quite sure which is worse, God or the author yapping about things she continues to not understand. Anyway, the unicorn and lion make quick work of the vine, so it frees everybody else. Then, because they don't have anything better to be doing, they follow the unicorn and lion. They walk for what feels like hours to them. As they go, Chess looks around for the horses, but he isn't sure if the forest got to them or if upon fulfilling their purpose, they disappeared back into the ether where they originated from. As they walk, Chess thinks about Alice and how much he misses her. The narration literally brings everything to a screeching halt so that she doesn't smell like other girls. Can we not with the internalized misogyny here? My throat catches and my heart leaps. It wasn't until this precise moment that I realized it's been stopped for days. I can only ever truly beat when she's near because it only beats for her. Might want to see a doctor about that. So the unicorn was actually Alice on the Beast Blend tea. Ugh, I should have guessed. She's a special snowflake unicorn. Chess is so happy to see her that he kisses her then and there in front of everybody. It's only when he comes up for the air that Chess realizes that the lion was his brother. The entire gang has been more or less reunited at this point. Ran on time for part 3. Thanks for listening to my Book Snark on YouTube. New videos are up every Monday, but stick around because I sometimes drop random videos on other days too. Just as a reminder, even if you can't financially support me, there are other ways to help me out. The first is watching this video as well as all my other videos. It's also important to like and subscribe. Finally, you can share this video with all of your friends so they can help as well. If you're already caught up with all of my videos, you can go to Tumblr for my main book snarks, always free and updated every morning. Newly added to Patreon is to become a member without paying. You'll get access to the same thing as Tumblr, but on Patreon. Supporters can have access to so many more book snarks starting at $1 a month. Also new is a 1-week free Patreon trial, so be sure to check that out. Special thanks to Dawn, Phoebe, and Nikki for supporting me on Patreon already. If you want to hear your name in my video next week, either support me on Patreon or make a one-time donation. Do you like my snark so much that you want me to snark your writing? I do that too. For just $6 per chapter, I will tell you how awful that your writing is. But not to worry if you feel like you couldn't take the criticism. I also offer regular book editing as well, just $10 per chapter. You can contact me on any of my social media platforms if you have further questions. If you want to read some of the things that I've written, you can purchase my works on Amazon. I have a slew of spicy short stories and 2 full-length novels. I also frequently run flash sales on my stories, so if you don't follow me on any social media, you might want to do so just so you can know when I might be offering things for free. Links for everything will be posted below. See you next week, guys!